Is the American economy as robust as it seems, or is it a house of cards waiting to collapse? Let's dive in. The American economy, it's a fascinating beast. With a GDP growth rate that's the envy of many, an unemployment rate that's a mystery to some, and an inflation rate that's a nightmare to others. These figures are not plucked from thin air. They're cited from reputable sources for your peace of mind. So what are the factors that might lead to the collapse of this seemingly robust economy? The unemployment rate seems low, but does it tell the whole story? Let's dive deeper. When we talk about unemployment, we typically refer to the official rate, the percentage of the total labor force that is jobless. But is it the whole truth? Not quite. Economists often ponder the real unemployment rate, a figure that doesn't shy away from the shadows. This rate includes those who have given up the job hunt, discouraged by the bleak prospects, and those who are underemployed, working fewer hours than they'd like or in positions below their skill level. According to a recent Bloomberg article, the difference between the official and real unemployment rates is staggering. Just imagine a whole city of people working less than they want to or not at all. The reality is not as rosy as it first appears, so the real unemployment rate paints a less rosy picture of the American economy. Inflation, the silent thief, is it robbing the American people? Let's delve into this. Picture this. You've got $100 in your pocket. Sounds like a decent chunk of change, right? But with the current rate of inflation, that $100 isn't stretching as far as it used to. It's as though an invisible hand is reaching into your wallet and pinching a few dollars when you're not looking. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that we've seen an inflation rate of around 5% over the past year. That might not sound like much, but consider this. A gallon of milk that cost $3 a year ago now costs you $3.15. That's the impact of inflation, and it's affecting everything from your grocery bills to your rent. Articles from the likes of Forbes and Bloomberg confirm this narrative, pointing out the increasing pressure on the average American's purchasing power. So inflation is another factor that is quietly eroding the strength of the American economy. GDP growth seems impressive, but is it really a sign of a healthy economy? Let's delve into this notion. Gross domestic product, or GDP, is the total value of goods and services produced by a nation. Growth in GDP is often hailed as a triumph, a sign of economic prosperity. But hold your applause, folks, it's not always as rosy as it seems. Let's talk about nominal GDP and real GDP. Nominal GDP is the raw figure, unadjusted for inflation, while real GDP takes into account the invisible pickpocket we call inflation. For instance, a 5% increase in nominal GDP may seem like a victory until you discover that inflation is at 3%. Suddenly that 5% shrinks to just 2% in real terms. Articles from esteemed publications like The Economist and Bloomberg have discussed this concept at length. So, GDP growth may not be the reliable indicator of economic health that it appears to be. Articles from esteemed publications like The Economist and Bloomberg have discussed this concept at length. So, GDP growth may not be the reliable indicator of economic health that it appears to be. So, is the American economy a house of cards waiting to collapse? Now that's a question worth pondering. We've navigated through the maze of unemployment rates, inflation, and the elusive allure of GDP growth. Let's do a quick recap, shall we? Our journey began with the enigma that is the unemployment rate. The official figure paints a rosy picture, but the reality is a stark contrast. When we factor in those who've given up job hunting or are underemployed, we're looking at a rate nearly double the official one. Next, we encountered the hidden thief, inflation. Sure, it seems harmless, even necessary for economic growth. But when it's consistently outrunning wage growth, it's silently eroding your purchasing power. Then we met the glittering illusion of GDP growth. It's easy to get dazzled by the impressive numbers, but remember, it doesn't account for the distribution of wealth. When the top 1% are raking in the lion's share, GDP growth can be misleading. So, what's the verdict? Well, on the surface, the American economy appears as sturdy as a redwood. But dig a little deeper and you'll see it might just be a well-constructed house of cards. While the American economy appears robust on the surface, these figures suggest that it may be more fragile than it seems. But as we all know, economics is not an exact science, and only time